everyone, so today we will be discussing the inbuilt functions we have in strings in Java. So coming first, we have the len function. So len function is simple, it is used to return the size of a string. Suppose our string is ABCD, so it just simply returns me the number of characters we have in our string. So here you can see we have 4 characters, so this gives me 4 as our output. So up next, we have the charAt function. So charAt function is used to retrieve a character present at any specific index. So if I do something like str.charAt2, so it does nothing, but it gives me the character present at the second index. And as you can see at second index, we have C. So this gives me C as the output. So this was the charAt function. Next, we have the substring function. So substring function is used to retrieve a part of a substring. So suppose if I do something like str.substring 3, 6. So if I index it, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we pass 2 parameters here. This is starting index and this is ending index. And ending index is exclusive. That means if ending index is 6, we go till 5 only because this is exclusive. So what it means is we start from starting index and go till 5, not 6 because it is exclusive. So we get PUT. So this would give me PUT as output. Also, we can also pass just one character, that is just the starting index. So in this case, what it does is starting from the starting index, it gives me the entire string. So in this case, you would get PUTER. So this is the working of the substring function. Up next, we have the equals function. So equals function is used to check the equality of 2 strings. Also, this equals function is case sensitive. That means it treats lower and uppercase characters differently. So suppose if I do str1 dot equals str2. So as you can see here, here we have A, here we have B, here we have C, here also ABC, but here we have small a, here we have capital A. And we know this is case sensitive, so it distinguishes between them. That's why we get false in this case. And suppose we did str1 dot equals str3. So in this case, you can see both of them exactly match. In this case, you would get true. Also, if there's another variation of it, it's known as the equals ignore case. So if you want that the case shouldn't be distinguished and lower and uppercase characters should be treated equally, you can use this lowercase ignore equals ignore case function. So if I write str1 dot equals ignore case str2, in that case you would get true because it treats lowercase and upper characters equally. So up next we have the two lowercase and two uppercase functions. So as the name suggests, the two lowercase function is used to convert every character into lowercase. So suppose our string is small a, capital B, small c. So if I apply two lowercase function, it would convert everything into lowercase. So we would get small a, small b, and small c. So this would be our output. Similarly, the two uppercase converts everything into uppercase. So in this case, you would get capital A, capital B, and capital C as our output. So this was the working of the two lowercase and two uppercase functions. Moving forward, we have the trim function. So the trim function is used to remove the trailing spaces in a string. So by trailing spaces, I mean the spaces that are present at the extremes, as you can see here. It doesn't affect the middle spaces. So these remains unaffected. So it removes the trailing spaces only. So we would get hello space world. So it only remove the trailing spaces and not these middle space. So this was the working of the trim function. Up next, we have the contains function. So contains function is used to check whether a string is contained or is present in our main string or not. So suppose our main string is computer and I write str.contains put. So it checks whether this put is present in our main string or not. And as you can see here, indeed we have this present. So this would return true. But if we search for cat, cat is not present in our main string. That's why we get false in this case. Next up, we have the indexOf function. So indexOf function is used to get the first occurrence or the first index of a specific character. So if I write str.index of a, so if I index it, so you can observe a is present at first index also and fourth index also. But it gives the first occurrence, so it returns 1. That's why we get 1 in this case. And if I suppose passed C here, E, sorry, if I passed E here, so you can see E is not present in the string. So in such cases, it gives me -1. So this is the indexOf function. Up next, we have the replace function. So replace function is used to replace instances of a specific character by another character. Suppose we have this string and we do str.replace p comma c. So it replaces every instance of p character with c. So as you can see here we had p, so it replaces with c, and here also we had p, so it replaces with c. So our resultant string would be a c c l e. So this was the replace function. Moving forward, we have the split function. So split function is used to split a string based on a particular separator which we pass. So suppose I passed here, let's say space. I passed empty space here. So what this will do it first finds all the spaces. So we have a space here and here also. So it splits our string into individual words based on these spaces. So it splits from there, here. So, and also it returns a string array as output. So in a string array, it would have a collection of all the words we splitted using this as a separator. So we would have this comma is comma coding. That is all the words we got after splitting based on our separator. So this was the split function. Lastly, we have the compareTo function. So compareTo function is used to compare two strings lexicographically. So by lexicographically, I mean alphabetically. So if I write str1 dot compare to str2, for instance. So we are talking about these two. So it matches character by character. So first character here is A, here we have C. So since A is less than C, that means it treats string 1 is less than string 2. That means this is less than this. So in such cases, it returns me a negative result. Had it been the opposite case, suppose I did str2 dot compare to str1. So str2 was CBA and str1 was ABC. Now you would see the first character here is C, here is A. So here str2's first character, that is C, is greater than str1's first character, that is A. So in this case, our string 2 becomes greater than string 1. So in this case, we get a positive result. And suppose if strings were equal, suppose both str1 and str2 were ABC, then it would give me 0 because both are exactly same. And also let's talk about str1 dot compare to str3. So we are talking about these two. So here you can see, let me erase the previous things. So the first character matches in both the cases. So we do nothing, we move our pointers. So now it will compare B and C. And as you know, B is less than C. That's why str1 is less than str3. That means str1 is less than str3. So it returns me a negative result. So this was the working of the compareTo function. So yeah, this was it for today's video. I hope you understood all the functions properly. So I would be making further such videos. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching.